All right, we're gonna complexicate things just a little bit. What we have now is called a finger. So this is the forest back here still, except in this case, the loggers have gone and they've logged a pocket of timber back there. This could pinch, potentially, depending on how you manage your land. And the way it could pinch is if you came back here and planted and went across this first, then came back, you now have no way of getting into the back here without having to walk across your planted trees. So what you're going to want to do instead is stick to the rule of plant the land furthest from your cache first. In this case, this point here is furthest from your cache. So when you get here, you're going to follow a line to the back and you're going to start filling like this. And then come back this way. Now, you'll notice that I did a whole bunch of zigzags here. There's a reason for that. Let's look at what could happen if we didn't do that. Let me just redraw that for you there. If instead of doing the zigzags I did, if I'd continued to do lines like this, then, I can't get in here now because I'll be too close to this line. So I've got this pocket back here that I either have to deadlock to, or I might forget about and I might not plant that entirely and then have to go back and fill that. That would mean finishing the rest of my piece, the checker finds that or my foreman finds that, I now have to walk all the way back there with trees to fill it. I can avoid that by doing it the first way I showed you, and planting land furthest from the cache, doing my little lines like this until I'm back in the open, and then I can keep doing these lines. All right, so that's how to deal with fingers. Now, what if we have the opposite? What if we have something jutting out into our piece like that? Let's say that this is a big fallen tree, big hairy spruce that's really hard to climb over. What you could do, you could get to it, climb over it each time, which really sucks. You might drop your trees and get dinged for dropped trees. You might hurt yourself or strain something. Plus, it's just kind of hard to do. So that option sucks. I'd rather not do that. The other thing you could do is you could do what's called bouncing or turning off of it. What that means is when you get to this object, I'm going to say, nah, I don't want to go over that. I'm going to turn and go back in my line instead and fill like this. So again, I'm filling land furthest from my cache, which is good. I haven't restricted access to any of this, which is good. I could come in over here. I could come in lots of different ways. But what I'm going to do now is when I cross it, because I finally worked my way out to the front of it, I'll follow it back and then start filling over here until I've straightened my line out. The straighter you can keep your lines, the easier they are to follow. And you could do this a number of times. You could have a couple of items in the way. You could have another one over here and another one over here, and you could fill in between these items as you see fit, just as long as you're working the land furthest from the cache first. All right, so I'm gonna have to grab another marker here, aren't I? All right, I'm back. We're going to talk about how to manage a piece with two people in it. This is likely to happen to you, especially as blocks are closing. So we're going to have the blue guy and the green guy. The green guy will go in and start filling like normal. The blue guy is gonna stick to the rules, planting the land furthest from the cache first and always following a line. So he'll follow in on this line and then start following this back line. Now you guys are gonna meet. When you meet here, you have the option to cross or bounce. If you guys cross, that means that you're gonna cross over each other, which means the green guy is gonna drop diagonally down this way and continue along this line. The blue guy will drop diagonally down this way and continue on this line in their respective directions. This is a good thing to do if the green guy is running out of trees and intends to go back to the cache on that particular line. Typically, you don't do that. Typically, you do what's called bouncing. Bouncing is preferable in my mind because I follow my own line. I know where I planted my trees. I know how well flagged they are. I'd rather do that. So when these two lines get close to each other, somebody will call bounce. It doesn't matter who. Whoever says it first is fine. It could be that, it could be a rookie. Doesn't matter at all. What's going to happen then is both planters are going to drop down a line and then they're going to go back the way that they came from. Make sense? This concept of bouncing applies in cattle plants being when there are lots of people in a piece. You might be bouncing quite often if you're planting in between other people. Let's say there's a third person in the piece. This blue planter might have to bounce again and go this way now, whereas this planter will go that way. The green guy is going to get over here to the bush line. They're going to turn and come back. And when they meet up, then the blue guy is going to have to bounce again. So just depending on who you meet, you just keep bouncing. The goal is not to leave any pockets, never to be stuck in planted land. Being pinched is what that's called, which we'll talk about now. And ideally, to finish the piece without having any double plant or quality faults associated with planting in other people's areas. Okay, so we're going to talk about getting pinched now and how to avoid that. So if two people are planting together and one's faster than the other, then there's potential for somebody to get pinched. In this particular instance, if the green planter is going faster than the blue planter, that's okay. The green planter is spacing off of the forest over here, the bush line, boundary flag, etc. This blue planter is spacing off of the green planter. If this blue If the blue planter gets ahead of the green planter and gets a little too close to the bush line here, when this green planter gets up to there, they're going to be forced to either be in the woods, which you don't want to be, or too close to the trees of the blue planter here, which again, you don't want to be. That's what's called getting pinched. If you get pinched, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to jump over and start following on the outside of the line. That sucks because that's something that you're not getting paid to do. The other thing that can happen, that should happen, is if the blue planter catches up to the green one, they're going to call out, hey, I'm taking over your line, or I'm jumping over you. They're going to jump in front of the green planter, take over their line, and ideally they'll have left the green planter a spot to drop down. It's sort of like crossing, except you're going the same direction. Hopefully that makes some sense.